our resident Texas A&M podcaster. He and I frequently have a good-natured debate.
A few podcasts already, but they have ties to the school, so they had to kind of keep it kind of clean. And we were like, what if we had an outlet where we could just speak our minds freely and keep it raw and real and not have to get approved by anyone? So that was kind of our goal with getting the podcast going, is to stay independent and keep it raw, real, and share hot takes.
Okay. You said something, and it's a great starting point. I always like to talk about the current coaching tenure and work from there. So you talked about the fallout, the messy exit of Mike Elko from Duke to Texas A&M. Now, on one hand, it did seem like a logical move. You know, just the paycheck he's getting, it's reasonable that he would leave for that job. What was messy about it? I would like to know more about that.
Really, I'd just like to start from the beginning. It's, Duke fans have now been put in this predicament a few times, and I'm sure we'll touch on the time that just recently happened later on here, but kind of started with Elko, just a disrespectful kind of not showing grace and courtesy to the school that gave you your opportunity to be a head coach, and exiting at midnight. The name Midnight Mike didn't come from, lies. He left on the tarmac late at night. He told the players over a Zoom call, players that, had came back
from Texas A&M.
Yeah, not from Duke. Didn't tell them face to face. We've had guys on our show, people we consider friends that played on those teams for Elko, and they have told us kind of about the shake of how it went when he left. And just, if you're going to leave, take the check. We completely understand it. Duke is not Texas A&M, but there's a way to go about it. You can wait till the next day. You can have a team meeting with everybody, your staff, your trainers, your student coaches, things like that. Give them the respect and grace that they gave you for 2 years. And then to just kind of do it the opposite way. We might not have a lot of fans, but the 80 of us that are on Twitter, we'll give any fan base hell. And there was about 80 versus 2,000 of us. We were just fighting for our lives on Twitter, Instagram. Just Duke football is not a pushover anymore. And if you're going to leave, that's fine, but go about it the right way.
I think that's fair. Yeah, no, that's reasonable. And it's been, certainly the last 3 coaches you guys had or have had, counting Diaz, it's been a period of success relative to the history of the program. You're in a way better position than nearly all of the history of Duke football. I mean, Cutcliffe had a number of good years. It certainly did tail off in, the last couple of years.
It was time.
But it was. Similar to Kentucky with Stoops this last offseason. You were probably the best coach the school ever had. You raised the bar. You stabilized everything. You made it, more notable. Then it was time for somebody else to come in and take it to that next level. Mike Elko did that. And then he was, at least financially in a way, he was rewarded with the bigger job. Then you bring in Manny. So when that job opened, prior end of the 23 season, were you guys largely on board with the Diaz hire, or were you split on it? What were the feelings there? Because I've always thought he's a pretty good defensive coach.
Yeah.
Struggled at Miami, but they were also in a weird period then where their expectations were not matching with where they should have been. So take us from there. Take us from the Diaz hire. Yeah.
Well, I know, if I remember correctly, Noah and Tyler, we haven't heard from you yet, Tyler, so I want to get your thoughts too. Manny wasn't the first name on our wish list, if I remember correctly. I know Jamie Chadwell from Liberty at the time was up there. We had a meme that it all comes back to Jamie Chadwell. Who else was on our wish list?
I mean, it would have made sense at the time because he was lighting the world on fire at Coastal, and then Liberty had a good year one. So, yeah.
Tyler's got an NFL favorite that might not have been our wish, but there was some smoke out there.
if I'm not mistaken, it happened with Elko too, but there was 2 cycles where Jason Garrett had been mentioned as a potential head coach for Duke.
It's weird when we've had the highly academic schools, Stanford, Duke, Northwestern. He's been in the mix for all of those jobs. Something about him, yes.
Cerebral guy.
It's the academic schools going 500 every year. Jason Garrett 500 every year. Just a match made in heaven, really. But I think the general consensus when we got Manny was, for where we're at, a guy that's had success. I mean, by Miami standards, it wasn't success, but anywhere else would take the track record he had. And with the experience that he had at Penn State, they were, I forget off the top of my head, but they were top 3 defense, I think, both years with him.
They were up there.
It was almost like if he wants it, you got to let him have it. Because I think the only other names that we had heard was Tony Gibson, the former NC State defensive coordinator.
That's right.
He was. That was kind of
Marshall guy now.
He's our head coach at Marshall now. Yep.
And he wanted to be at Duke, and Duke kind of was like, "Here's our 2 options," and went with Manny. And that was also kind of like Tyler referred to during the Elko cycle. Gibson also, his name cycled through that along with whenever Tony Elliott's name was cycling and all that. So, but kind of like Tyler was also saying there, when Manny got hired, I feel like the consensus, at least between people who watch a lot of football, kind of went and looked at, what he did at Miami. And even though maybe that's not their success, they still have winning seasons in the conference, and by Duke's measures, that's fantastic. And what he did at Penn State was off the charts. And then just kind of seeing what he was doing recruiting wise, which I feel like maybe he wasn't doing at Miami at the time, but what he was kind of picking up again at Penn State seemed like a kind of a home run guy for us. And it's easy to say that now as he's, got us our 1 ring we've ever seen in our lifetime. But, I think it's definitely been a lot of support from a lot of the fan base for Manny.
That's good. Yeah, it seems like I've not heard any crossword or any grumbling about him in his time there, which there shouldn't be to this point.
Yeah.
I mean, he certainly has done a heck of a job since he's been there. So kind of one of our starting spots we always talk about is last season. So the most convoluted conference tiebreaker ever, and then you guys go and get it done against Virginia and win the ACC. At the beginning of the year, did you guys even think that was a realistic possibility?
I'm going to chime in here and say yes, but not in the way that it ended up happening. Going into the season, we were sold that we had gotten one of the best quarterback transfers in the country. We brought in some dogs at receivers, some dogs in the backfield. So we were expecting a really good season and potentially, possibly, maybe making a run at the ACC. If you had asked any of us halfway through the season, we wouldn't have told you that. But I guess we all believe that in the beginning of the season that it could happen, just not in the way that it did.
Yeah,
but hey, I'll take it. I'll take that kind of ACC title over no ACC title. That's what I'll say.
After the back-to-back drops to UConn and Virginia, you probably weren't thinking that was still on the table.
Not at all.
The UConn, our podcast after each game, the following week, we put out a recap of that game and a preview of the next. And the UConn and Tulane losses were some of our most heartbreaking. You can just hear like defeat in our voices for the entire hour we're talking. I mean, just like somebody had repeatedly beat us, like in person, like our physical selves. And to think that we went from that to then being on the field at the ACC championship, like screaming, celebrating, seeing the confetti shoot off, and then recording like an ACC championship recap episode where we're just all smiles, elated, happy, never been happy in our entire lives. Just a roller coaster of a year.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
If you go back to that UConn episode, it's funny. Eli sent it to us the other day. There was a 30-second clip of us going, wouldn't it be the most Duke thing ever after this loss to UConn if we just routed it off and won the ACC? And it's just like, because it really is like the most Duke football thing you can think of. You
Well,
lose
Tyler
to
called
2G.
it.
You lose to 2G5 schools. You're in a rock fight with Elon for 3 quarters, and then you go in the Death Valley. You dominate Clemson, who they're down, but still, and then you somehow not only get to Charlotte, win it, and then now everyone hates us because of the whole tiebreaker situation and
The Duke rule.
typical
Well,
Duke. Somehow we get to be the villain, which
Tyler
is fine
called
with us.
it like on a granular level. He was like, "Wouldn't it be wild if we won out, made the ACC title game, won the ACC title game, and then became the first ever P4 team or conference champion left out?" Like he
Left out.
called
That's-
every step of the way and
Yeah.
nailed it. It was unreal.
Eli
we'll be
sent
the
that
only
video
one.
clip to us the other day, and it was just like to look back and hear him call a shot. It's like that's just, and it's the most Duke thing ever, and that's like our saying. That's so Duke. It's hard to explain to people that haven't sat there in Wallace Wade with 75 other people for a 100-degree kickoff against Northwestern. But like once you see enough of how Duke operates on a football field, it'll all make sense to you eventually.
And you're probably right about what you just said there, Tyler. It probably will not happen to another P4 conference champion.
It'll never happen again.
Yeah. One in the expansion, that's the rule change. All P4 conference champions now make it. So the one and only.
Yeah.
First guy through the wall is always the bloodiest.
Yep, that's fair. But, last year, end of the season, obviously good. Lose to Virginia, beat them 3 games later in the title game, go to the bowl game. Did any of you guys go to the Sun Bowl?
No.
We did not.
I love Duke football, and I'll travel for Duke football, but even I have my limits.
Yeah, El Paso.
It is one of the most scenic stadiums you will ever go to.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to go there. It's just the getting there is.
Yes. But you beat a good Arizona State team. And now let's get into the offseason. Obviously, last season was good. You don't win a conference and have it be, a blemish. So in the offseason, there is one logical and obvious place we have to start, and it's probably the quarterback position. I think that's what we need to talk about. And it's not, to me, that was an odd situation. Even rehashing this with other people from all over, it's not necessarily losing Darian Mensah. It's the timeline, how late in the game, and the way that process worked, that was just kind of foul to me. Like, and foul might be the wrong word. He has the right to do it, not taking anything away there, but just the way that process worked, it just seemed so obvious that tampering was happening, for lack of a better word. That's it, right?
I mean, one of those things. It's I can't hate a guy for leaving for a better job. We've all done it. We've all left for a better job with more money, more opportunity. But it's, back to the Elko thing. There's a way to do it, especially after having a 2-year contract signed and making the video saying he's coming back and getting down to the very last day of the portal.
Yeah, you can't make a LeBron video. And that's the thing. And we've all said this. You can go back to any pod. There's never been a time where we've changed this stance. All 3 of us have said this. If the day the portal opened, he got the hell out of Dodge and was like, I'm going to South Beach, and took Cooper and whoever else with him, would have been like, yeah, it is what it is. Hate it for us. Yeah. But, now we have the entire portal window to go shopping. And Duke's not NIL poor. They do well for themselves in that category. And, no knock on Walker or anything like that. But, what we've ended up with is a product of what you were talking about. With 2 hours essentially left in the night of the portal, your quarterback up, leaves, and's gone. Everybody else has had their guy for a week, 2 weeks at that point. You're kind of just left stranded at that point.
Yeah. So let's move to Walker. I mean, there were not a ton of QBs last year that threw for 3,000 yards and had the success he had over not just 1, but 2 years. Was the QB for Ken Numatalolo, 2 years at San Jose State, had over 3,000 last year, 2,500 the year before. threw for 30 touchdowns total. I think he's a pretty good QB. Now, we never truly know how that translates from G6 to P4, but given the time window we were dealing with and how late in the game it happened, I thought it was a lot better than it could have potentially been. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, 100%. There were a few names. You know, DJ Lagway was a name that was thrown out there passingly, and Alberto Mendoza.
Yeah, because DJ was in the portal forever.
Yeah. I'll say it up in front. I'm a little biased with Walker Eget. My dad went to San Jose State, and he's from the same family or city my family's from, so I'm a little biased for him. But the pros here, like you're talking about, you know, he's got the build, 6'3", 235. You can't really ask for much better at a quarterback position. He's won some games, like you said, over 5,500 career passing yards, 30 TDs. Interceptions a little high. He was injured last year, and like I said on our podcast recently talking about this, he was playing in the Mountain West Conference, and he was playing for San Jose State. San Jose State is bottom half of the Mountain West, and the Mountain West is bottom half of D1 conferences, right? So you can only show off your stuff so much. The way I view it, though, is he's going to be healthy this year. He's in a very quarterback-friendly offense. Mm-hmm. I can almost guarantee that, if nothing else, he'll outperform his previous records if he is the starter on week 1.
Good. Yeah. Is there any chance he won't be? I mean, we usually talk about the whole QB room, and I don't see Ari Patu beating him out, to be quite honest. So
no, Ari definitely won't be. If anybody's going to beat him out, it's going to be our guy Dan Mahan, who's a Duke recruit. From
okay.
County.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we've actually, there's our last pod, we kind of have a little, I won't say big disagreement, but like we all have different stances on it. And internally, I mean, I'm pretty convinced Duke's going to go with Eget to start week 1 at least.
Yeah.
But there's discussion about, like, we'll probably see both quarterbacks for the first few weeks. Because like with us, our thing is it's come down to preference. Mahan, by all accounts, is probably who is the presumed starter next year, barring something in the portal. So it was just one of those things where do you roll out Eget this year, and does Eget really raise your floor and ceiling that much more than what you're going to get with Mahan, or do you throw Mahan out to the wolves and you figure out what happens? But they're portraying it as a real competition, but I think we're all in agreement that Eget's probably going to be the starter week 1, but we all expect to see both quarterbacks. Yeah, we all expect to see both quarterbacks pretty early in the season.
In our last episode, we I kind of phrased it as this. There's not many bets I would make about Duke football this year, but the one thing I would bet my life house dog on is that no quarterback will start all 12 games, even if it's like perfectly healthy hypothetical world.
Okay.
The same quarterback will not start all 12 games this year. Back in the day, we had the Anthony Boone, Parker Bain, Thomas Sirk kind of days where Cut was rotating some guys in, not necessarily like a wildcat package, but essentially a quarterback wildcat where it's more of an option focused. Walker's not going to be running the football at Duke. Same as the way Malik was. And Walker probably has been through some worse injuries, which, like Eli said, we're a very quarterback friendly offense. Malik, who struggled outside of Duke, did pretty well at Duke, broke the record his 1 year here for most touchdown passes. So there's certainly, bright spots to Walker, kind of that experience. What can Jonathan Brewer get out of him? As well as the bright spot of young, homegrown 3-star quarterback, held offers from Florida, a couple other schools, couple of good G5s like App. So, more athletic, quicker kind of a option quarterback, the old Riley Leonard build. A lot to be excited about regardless of who's taking the snaps,
Good to know. Yeah. The one guy I laughed at when I was looking at the depth chart, I laughed when I saw Terry Walker, because a couple episodes ago I did a UCLA episode. Terry Walker was the guy that does the UCLA podcast.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
That was a big recruit for us last year.
Yes, he was. And then one of the more promising rooms you guys have, I just was talking to one of my buddies today, and we do a college fantasy league, and his big steal last year, free agent wire, was Nate Shepard.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he's a big Nate Shepard guy. And
Oh, yeah.
he was another guy who holding on to him and keeping him on the roster was massive, because that certainly he's a guy who, if he would have entertained other schools in the portal, probably could have gotten a decent paycheck. And him coming back to, be the bell cow, he'll be one of the better running backs in the ACC.
No doubt. The only gripe I have with Nate is that he wasn't starting from week 1 last year. That's my only real complaint, and that's not his fault. We heard rumors and rumblings in the offseason that he could be
got some offers.
RB1 material last season as a true freshman, and boy, did we see that play out. Yeah, retaining Nate and Jeremiah Hazley at tight end. Were definitely probably the two biggest silver linings last offseason, considering what we lost. Nate's going to be a workhorse this year. And that's the thing. That's what gives me a little more – the closer we get to the season, the more my shoulders drop a little bit with our production on offense. With how quarterback-friendly our offensive scheme is and with how elite our running game is with Nate Shepard, if he stays healthy, we don't necessarily have to have the best quarterback in the conference or in the league behind center to be successful. Just got to be, know how to play the cards.
And alongside Nate, last year, a lot of his, success came off the tandem, duo of him and Castle. And at media days was able to kind of talk with Shepard and ask him, Castle's going to the Colts now. We brought in CJ Givers, got our transfer running back in, Javian Tonellis, a freshman kind of stud that we've brought in. Just what he thought about that room. And, Duke's looking at, of course, Nate's the star of the show, but his punches behind him, his Robin and co, there's some studs there. And I think that's
CJ Campbell's an interesting.
Absolutely. From Rutgers.
And last year had the misfortune at Rutgers of being behind Antoine Raymond, who is just a workhorse. But he was really good at FAU the year before Campbell was. So, he was – I think right around that 900, I was looking at his numbers, at 844 yards, 11 touchdowns the year before. So did well, was one of the few bright spots on that last Tom Herman team at FAU.
Yeah,
so
I was just going to say real quick, coming in last year, I don't think anybody was expecting Anderson Castle to be a game changer, but that tandem was just so impressive. And CJ Campbell coming from where he's coming from and with his stats averaging 5.4 yards per carry throughout his career, I think that's going to be another exciting tandem. I think you're only as good as your two deeps, right? And I think if you've got two solid running backs in your roster, you're pretty blessed.
Yeah, not many teams, are going to have more than that. So. Yeah. Receiver-wise, I do need you guys to enlighten me on one of them. I cannot say I know much about Penn transfer Jared Richardson, who listed as a starter.
FCS All-American.
Get ready.
I was looking.
Ready to learn. That's kind of the as they would say in Moneyball, replacing in the aggregate of Cooper Barkate. Richardson, big time playmaker, large size, large frame. His tape kind of jumps off the charts at you. It is, an Ivy League transfer, but so was Cooper Barkate. Duke's also had plenty of other Ivy transfers that have done real well for him. Guys like Ozzie Nicholas and co. But really excited to have him. That veteran leadership paired with some really young stars that Duke's brought in under Diaz recruiting. It's kind of an unknown room, but I definitely think it's one we're all pretty excited about.
Good. And then the other transfer, Javin Nicholas, was solid at Charlotte, started his career at LSU, but again, team who struggled last year at Charlotte, but his numbers were impressive, in just going through that stat line of his. Had 60 catches, 740 yards. That's quite good. Whenever you're getting north of 40, and he was,
And that's on a bad UNC Charlotte team. That's catching passes from Grayson Loftus and who knows who else.
Former Carolina.
I forgot. I forgot about that. Yes.
Grayson, and who's the Carolina quarterback that was there? Tyler, you might remember. It was-
Who started before Geo the last year of?
Was it
But-
Max Johnson?
No,
No.
but you're close.
No.
But so that's who Grayson was in competition with last year, essentially. But I mean, Charlotte, like Eli was saying, they were bottom of the barrel. And then to your point, 700 yards and 60 receptions with, not a great offense.
Connor
no
Harrell.
good- Connor
Connor
Harrell,
That's
yeah.
yep.
Oh man.
Yep.
There's no structure to that school and program, not to knock on them. They're 10 miles down the road from me. I'd love to see them turn into a successful G6, but
I do think Tim Albin is a very good coach. He was good at Ohio.
yeah.
It's just you're so far behind everybody else in that
Can't
conference
catch up.
that everybody else's starting point is here and yours is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but
So-
that duo, I mean, we're going to lean on them heavy. Javen Nicholas and Jared Richardson. I mean, you've got your prototypical slot receiver build guy in Javen Nicholas, and you've got your prototypical go up and get it build guy in Jared Richardson. A couple of the decent returning guys, too. Jaden Moore has a few reps under his belt. Younger brother of Duke legend Jordan Moore. So,
Okay.
we've got a few guys in the receiver room. I mean, we've had worse, we should be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, Javon Solomon. I don't know a ton of, obviously has not been, hasn't played a ton. But what should I know about him?
Explosive.
Okay.
Very, very explosive. He's going to be one of those guys where you get him in the open field and good luck. Like you get him, a little bubble screen, a quick little slant, and give him 3-4 yards separation. You're not going to get him down. He's going to be crafty. And he's coming into a good spot where he's going to be able to play, wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and not have all the pressure of being a young guy, being the top target with Nicholas and Richardson in behind him.
Will him and Nicholas be the two guys that play in the slot? Or
I would expect
where will he
primarily,
play?
and you'll probably see Jaden Moore there too.
Yeah, Jaden
Okay.
Moore, a lot of slot reps. And then
Okay.
kind of the guy, I think, because Solomon, of course, redshirt freshman,
Yeah.
he's very highly spoke of in the program. A lot of good things, I think, is being expected of him out of that room. It kind of shows that Duke's recruiting the last 3-4 years has really taken off. Just when you see kind of their athleticism compared to guys that were playing receiver at Duke in 2016, 2017, 2018, we're winning games then, but these guys are kind of a different breed of athlete. And then like a guy like Brody Keefe comes in, true freshman. A lot of the talk is we're not going to see a red shirt there. Stud out of Charlotte, out of Myers Park. And at the spring game, he showed it. It was on field. He was the best looking player in the entire game. So really exciting to look forward to somebody like that as well.
Good. Yeah. The tight end room, you got two guys that I like. Jeremiah Hasley and Nate Kariski, the transfer from Louisville. If you guys want to play 12 personnel, I think you're going to be well set up for it. Both of those two guys certainly look the part, are good-sized bodies. I don't know as much about the, which one would be H-back type guy if you're, doing motioning, stuff like that. But they both are pretty impressive looking guys to me.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what kind of gives me a little more peace of mind when we're talking about the quarterback situation, just with how dynamic the running game is, the receiving game, but also tight ends. Like we've got guys at every skill position on the offense. So that's giving me some peace here. Yeah, Jeremiah Hasley is a guy who's really made a name for himself. Just really kind of exploded onto the scene last year, especially. He had some reps in 23, 24, but really made a name for himself and got honors last year, and as he should. And like you said, Nate Kariski coming in from Louisville is another guy. He's got the build, right? 6'3", 245, very seasoned vet. I mean, we were lucky last year to have another transfer, Landon King, playing opposite Jeremiah Hasley.
Yeah,
Same thing last year.
I forgot about him. Yeah.
Two great tight ends. Anytime you have one or two great tight ends on your roster, you're blessed. So
And Brewer, he does
He's
like to use them, so it's fun to watch. And if it's any indication of kind of how last year was, Jeremiah is your motion in H-back guy, kind of getting in the backfield on those read option pulls and things like that, crossing, doing some inside blocking, but also really great receiving tight end as well. More of a possession guy. And then it seems like almost that as Landon King last year was a spread them out tight end, Nate, our new tight end, is more of a blocking, run-oriented guy. So I think what you mentioned earlier, that 12 personnel with the running back room and the kind of situation we're in, I think you'll see that quite a bit this year.
And that's also stuff that Walker, as you at San Jose State, they were also doing that stuff a lot too. So
manna from heaven for a guy like that, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
much more talented guys around him too.
Yeah.
Holding him up a little bit.
The other thing, like with Walker, like I kind of forgot, like that first year he went in with Nick Nash, where you had just the target monster. You got put in a situation where you're going to be spreading out more, throwing more. Then last year, they were probably more like we will see in a Duke team this year, playing a little more pro style type. So the O-line up front, I did see, and not that PFF grades are everything, but with O-line, we have so little quantitative metrics to go by and looking at him. Nick Del Grande looks pretty solid. Transfer from Coastal Carolina. Likely will play left tackle, I'm assuming. Is that accurate?
Tyler, I know you love him. I'll let you take us.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm very excited about the O-line as a whole. But yeah, Del Grande was probably the most, I don't say slept on because that gets overused. It didn't get the attention I thought it would, even from like Duke fans. Like it kind of happened, and for a day it was like, all right, cool, we got this highly rated guy from Coastal, and then the next day it was like, who? But like I'm very
like, oh yeah, Mayhem's gone on. Crap. Yeah.
And especially with like losing Brian Parker is massive. Like that's a big loss.
Bengals, right? Isn't he with the Bengals?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a big loss for us, and so I think he's going to come in right away. And I mean, it's you can't replace a guy that's played 1,500 snaps. Like that kind of experience is just, and even at a Coastal, they're not what they were 3 or 4 years ago, but they're still a respectable program at the G5 level.
Oh yeah.
So it's good to have him, and then the other Braden Miller we got from Cal. Mm-hmm. He's also going to be one that I expect to slot in right away with Matt Craycraft.
I saw him. The depth chart I looked at had him projected at right tackle.
That's what it's. Those two guys are more than likely going to be playing the outsides, and then Craycraft at center, and then you've got Larson, Brad Smith at the guards, Sahakian inside at guard. A lot of different guys we could probably pull and play at guard, but I think Larson, probably the main guy, will be out there as well as Smith. But our tackles, excited about them, even though they're transfers. As long as they get in there and kind of mesh well, those two guys should kind of just come in and keep rolling.
Yeah, Craycraft was another guy. His measurables and how he's played so far, like he definitely had some tools, and it looks like he's played well based on the numbers. When he's been in PFF ways, he was the highest rated guy. So
he'll be playing on Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who's like a all reliable back there. It's easy to like talk about other guys ahead of him, but it's like, oh yeah, like he's a key piece of the offensive line. Yeah, he's an anchor.
Yep.
And that's the thing about offensive linemen. Like you don't want to hear your name called as an O lineman. Like normally, if you hear your name as an O lineman, something bad's happened.
And it's. I feel like talking about him being at center, we can set our watch to. Every other year, we're going to have a Duke guy who can play 3 offensive line positions that gets drafted.
Oh, yeah.
You can set your watch to it. Yep.
Yeah, it's that Graham Barton, Jacob Monk pedigree. What an unreal line we had in 2023, man.
But yeah, that O-line looks pretty solid. And then defense. So I think let's start off, going back to last year. Mensah and Shepard definitely got the publicity, as goes with those positions. But what was the defense good at? Where did they struggle?
Nothing. Everywhere.
Yeah, struggled everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, and that's we call it how we see it. We'll give them their flowers when it's earned, and we call it out when it's not. And we had I think we were in the bottom fifth of passing, defense, but we were in the bottom of every statistical category. Tackling percentage, pass defense, our
third down conversions.
Yeah, we used to say it during the game that they might as well not even play first and second down. Just get the 3rd and 12, and Duke's going to give you a first. And then it happened every week. So not much light to shed. There were a couple of cool performances. The Luke Murgo interceptions, and things like that are cool to highlight. But what happened during the rest of those games?
Was he the one who got the interception against Virginia?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Arizona
State.
State.
The guy, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was the weirdest thing, because the year before they had this really on your ass, havoc defense, getting turnovers, being super opportunistic, bending not breaking. And then we didn't lose a ton in the offseason.
In fact, we thought we might have got better.
Yeah, in some areas, we had vets on the ends, and the interior we had the strongest guy on the team at D tackle, and we couldn't stop anything. It was unreal. We had Manny Diaz spoke about this very candidly, very openly, and very extensively recently. And honestly, you know how it is. Coaches will get super political and just kind of spew salad, and it's just I don't feel anything from that. I genuinely enjoyed his quotes recently about the defense last year, talking about entitlement creeping in and not having the depth, especially in the secondary, to be able to kind of choose who's starting rather than we have no choice but to let some of these guys start. And so he talked about really targeting guys in the secondary in the portal and bringing guys in, and almost a clean slate this year. I don't care if you've been here 5 months or 5 years, you're only starting based off your merit in camp. Only the best are going to start this year. And so
it's a good message to send.
Yeah, I like it.
And he was asked about that at media days too. And he kind of, what can you do? I think it was David Hale asked him, what can you do to get that defense back to the 2024 Duke? What you had that first year, the just great, one of the more fun defenses to watch in Duke football, at least in our lifetimes, of course. And that was kind of the expectation coming from Penn State, that's what was going to be brought every year. And, won the championship last year, not going to complain about anything that happened, but, the defense just had a lot of shortcomings. Duke could have been a lot better last year than they were, even with winning that championship. So, and like Eli said, I think Diaz kind of came out in the open and said, here's the expectation of how things will be. So, much more excited for this group and what they'll produce, but last year's was a doozy.
Yeah, when you have a defense predicated on turning the ball over and creating havoc in the backfield, and you can't get to the backfield and you can't cover receivers, it lends itself to exposing a lot of flaws. And last year we weren't very deep, and you could tell 2 or 3 drives in, it just defensive linemen are winded, corners are backs turned to everybody chasing the ball. It was pretty night and day difference from year one.
Yeah, in looking at the numbers, I was a little surprised, because usually when you see teams that are at the level of winning a conference, there's at least one category on defense where you're really, really good, whether it be you're getting sacks, you're stopping the run, you're good on third down, you're turning it over. That really wasn't the case with you guys. I looked, it was
not exist.
Pass rush, you were 30 in the country. Run defense, 46. Coverage success, 75th in the country. I mean, that third down was.
Oh, it'll get worse. The more you read into it, the worse it'll get.
Yeah. But it was whoa, and I hate to say it, it's almost like, God, how did this team win the conference? Like,
That's
so
interesting.
the defense, the offense had to go out and put up 45 points a game. That was it.
Yeah. Which that dynamic is how you can win those tough games, but then also lose to 2 G5 teams.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
That's how it happens.
Including one
Yeah.
that got their ass beat by Rice the week before they played us and then came out and looked like the damn Bears.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why the defense, it's not a nice thing if they be better this year. They have to be better because we're just not going to have that 45, 38 points a game. Obviously, those aren't actual numbers, but that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But we're not going to have that this year. And so we're going to need the defense to kind of pull their weight a little bit to help balance it out. It's not going to be like this anymore. You got to get a little closer together. So I don't know. I'm optimistic. That those aren't words often spoken by Duke football fans, but I am optimistic that the defense will at least improve this year.
Should be. I mean, that D-line, Waffle looks like a solid transfer. The D-tackle.
I'm excited about that one.
Penn State. Yeah. Kevin O'Connor's back. Him and Bryce Davis were two guys that they both had some interesting, stuff. Is Bryce Davis healthy? He's because the depth chart looks at they'll have red flags for the guys that are dinged up. What's his?
Oh,
status?
that's right. I forgot Davis got banged up in the bowl game, right?
Yeah, he got a calf injury. He's fine for fall camp though. But he's not going to be the expected start again this year. It'll be O'Connor, Tyshawn Reed, Kobe Smith. Davis will definitely get more PT this year, increasingly, but almost seems like there might be, they're not seeing enough out of him just yet. Kind of the waves and the rumbling, but we've got some dogs out there with him. Just hope he kind of comes on, as well as Tommy Rupley, who was a super high recruit for us that came in with Bryce. So need those guys, but the other three are very solid.
That's good to know. Yeah. So I will say the depth chart I was looking at, why I framed it that way, it had Davis and Tyshawn Reed listed as the two projected starters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then at D tackle, Waffle and Preston Watson were listed as
Preston's
the two starters. And
kind of anchor there.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at our defensive line. It's like, okay, like we've got guys who all have reps, whether they were at Duke or elsewhere. We've got some experience. So I'm pretty high. I mean, I don't know if I'm super, super high on anyone on the D line, but I have faith in guys on the D line. I think that's a good starting front. Some of our two deeps aren't that promising, and it's important to rotate the defensive line, but you never know. That's the cool thing about college football. You never know who's going to be a star.
Yeah, and it's also a position where we're seeing any of the teams having success. You're playing 7-8 guys on the D line, and nobody's dominating reps. It's high octane, high leverage, and you're rotating in every 2 or 3 plays to stay fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more of a unit. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, it was honestly, in looking at the depth chart, to me, it was probably the position group I had the most questions of on the roster. Do you think that's out of pocket, or is that accurate? Maybe
D-line having those questions.
I would say secondary and D-line are the two.
Probably equal.
Okay.
Are the two biggest ones where you could throw 8 names at us and they could probably start week 1. You might not see them at all. I feel like those two.
I will have about 8 defensive backs to throw at you when we get there, so that is fair. Yes.
Yeah. But the good thing with the defensive line is, for the most part, it's a very young group.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't have a ton of age out there, so you're able to rotate a bunch of guys in and figure out, okay, like a Bryce Davis, a Tyshawn Reed, a Kobe Smith, because Kobe Smith in the bowl game last year against Arizona State was dominating
till he snapped his leg in half.
Yeah, till he injured his leg. So like the potential's there. Now it's just a matter of, can these guys step into the roles of losing a Wesley Williams, a Vincent Anthony, and Aaron Hall, 27-year seniors that we've had.
And looking at this lineup, looking at the D linemen, you brought up a good point. With the new 5-and-5 rule, everybody on this D line, other than one has 2 or 3 years of eligibility left.
Yeah.
And they're all some
Young.
of our highest recruits we've ever brought in, not just in Diaz's tenure, but in Duke football history. I mean, you go to Bryce, Tommy Rupley, Kobe, and Tyshawn. These are guys, you know, they had to sit behind Wes, VJ, you know, there for a year or two, but now's the time. It's time to step up, fill those roles, and kind of show why you were brought here and why there was so much excitement around them.
And that's the thing, talking about, you know, replacing VJ and Wes, you know, yeah, we lost some seasoned guys, but like, and they did some great things in their time at Duke. But like, the weird thing about last year's defense was like, we saw it when some of our vets at the linebacker went down. When the young pups came in, there was zero fall off in the linebacker play. If anything, it got better last year when the young guys came in. So I kind of carry that same philosophy with me with the D lines. Like, we lost some vets, but regardless of who was on the line last year, nobody was really moving the needle one way or another. We still had awful, you know, you read the stats a little bit ago. So I don't see our line getting any worse this year. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I that's fair. I think that's, like I said, it's not that they were unimpressive to look at. It's just that you don't know who's going to, it looks like there's so many guys going to play. It's tough to pin down who will be, you know, the leaders, so to speak.
Yeah.
The linebacking room does look good. You know,
yeah.
In the 4-2-5, you're nominally only going to start the 2, but Margot and Nick Morris both look like good players. Will Morris be that other starter, do you guys think?
Yeah, he will be.
Definitely.
Margot's wearing the dot, and Nick will be out there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it would be Morris or Kendall Johnson, but Morris made sense. Yeah.
Nick is one of those guys who, it's funny because Luke Margot has been on the team for a while, but nobody was kind of giving him the same looks going into last year as they were Nick Morris Jr. Nick Morris Jr. been on the team for a long time now, for like 4 or 5 years at this point. Was never really a starter up until 2024 came around. Was supposed to be like his year, and then he got hurt week 1 and was out for the season. And then he came back last year and got hurt week
4,
3.5. And
he got hurt like the first quarter of the state game last year.
Yeah, so that was week 4. So he missed most of last year as well. So we're really hoping and praying, because we're outside of being Duke football fans. He's a good friend to us. And so we're really hoping he's got the intangibles, right? Like, he's got the physicality and the brain. So if he can stay healthy, he should be a star this year alongside Luke Margot. I'm excited about those two starting next to each other.
And all the rotational guys behind him are fantastic. So that room, top to bottom, is great.
And that's the things, like with those vets going down last year, we got some valuable playing time for younger pups like Bradley Gompers, another one of our higher rated recruits who got some valuable playing time last year. Elliot Shopper was another guy who kind of came out of nowhere when we had like nobody left and balled out for a little while until he got hurt. So top to bottom. He's
another guy that I was going to ask about Shopper because he still has the red flag. I was curious if he's healthy yet or not.
He's a
yeah. He tore his, was it ACL? It was like November of last year, so I'd assume he'd be healthy by now with Duke's technology.
Right in the Clemson game.
Yeah,
right after Clemson. I can't remember if it was at the end.
It was Clemson on a kickoff. Yeah,
but yeah, he's a green light. Duke, honestly, right now is about as healthy as they've ever been going into a fall camp, and that's knock on wood, because we've definitely dealt with our fair share of going in before, but had a lot of good things come from the off season, like rehab or surgery wise. A couple of guys in the secondary that had some things done, like Stone and Kamari. So, you know, everybody's kind of coasting right now. We'll see how long it lasts, but hopefully it sticks.
You said Clemson. Was it Clemson or Georgia Tech last year that was the game where it was like 46-45? So
Clemson.
That was Clemson.
Yeah,
absolute.
We were all at that game. It was great.
You guys won by 1.
Yeah.
The controversial PI call where they tackled us by the jersey in the end zone.
Should have been holding, but yeah.
Okay. But I remember it's just very high scoring. Kind of
that game was.
Were taught. When I asked you how you won before, you said you had to score 30 every game. So yeah,
that was the one where we really had to do it, or it was going to be we were getting pants.
Mm-hmm. And the defensive back room, decent amount of new faces here. Obviously, losing Terry Moore and Mekhi Jones big lot. Terry Moore's a good player. Tough to lose him.
Yeah, to Ohio State of all places too. That's crazy.
Yeah, he
That's
used
huge.
this for a year to get that good Duke med rehab before he went up to good old Ohio State to go play for one last year. But I mean, all best to him. He did it the right way. Entered the portal the day it opened. So, but definitely was a stud. But we missed him last year. That was for sure. Having him out all season sucked.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see him play, one more, but
Yeah.
And then one guy, so last year I was on this show talking about a guy with his former school, Dylan Flowers. I had a WKU guy on last year. He should be a pretty good addition for you guys, I think. I would expect him at D-back, whether he starts or is the third corner. I think he'll see the field quite a bit anyway.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. Loud from Montana is definitely number one guy. Biggest transfer, but Flowers probably looking to be that slot corner. But probably playing majority of the snaps out there, I would imagine.
Okay.
It was a similar thing last year with literally every position. We were kind of lacking in depth at the secondary position. Guys like Landon Callahan and Kamari Robinson were both pretty young and inexperienced guys who, got punked a few times here and there, but it was valuable game experience. So I think having those folks behind guys like, Keon Loud, Dylan Flowers, it's going to be pretty solid this year. They brought in some guys, and that's probably the number one area they targeted on the defense in the portal. It was kind of, we have to beef this up here. No
number-wise, it certainly looks like that. Yes.
Yeah.
The safety from North Texas, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he was a solid addition to come in and kind of play
Patrick Smith-Young.
To play beside Deshaun Stone and Juice, Andrew Pellicciata, our two safeties that we're both looking forward to watching this year. Deshaun being healthy, Pellicciata going into his sophomore year. He's a beast. So looking forward to having them paired up with, Smith Young. Like Eli was saying,
Pellicciata was listed as a starting strong safety in the depth chart I have.
Yeah, he's a 4-year guy for us for sure. Well, 5 years, hopefully now the way things are shaking out. But there was no red shirt for him last year, no doubt about it. But he proved very quickly what kind of ball player he was going to be for us. And really looking forward to seeing that room healthy all around. Stone last year was kind of forced into trying to play the Terry Moore role because they didn't know what they had with kind of some of the younger guys. And Stone is more of an extra linebacker than a coverage boundary safety. A lot of times last year, it looked bad, but it was more so the scheme of everything. So he's getting back more into his natural role. Smith, Young, and Juice playing the boundaries, covering deep things. Should be a much better group, kind of like Eli's notion earlier with the defensive line. It can't be much worse, but there's a lot of, room for improvement. But, you want to make, when you're at the very bottom, you don't want to just improve a little bit. You want to get in that top half. And I think they've got the players there to do that this year.
Good.
I think it's a great, across the board. Sorry to interrupt. I think it's all the young guys that we have returning on the defense, whether they're 1 or 2 deep, got valuable playing time last year, and they're very well complemented by a bunch of grad transfers coming in. So that experience with guys who have been in the system who are still young, really interesting kind of melting pot there that I'm looking forward to seeing what the finished product is. Because again, can't get much worse.
No, that's I appreciate that though. Like that, I feel like most of these episodes, and I'll freely admit this, usually I have a decent working knowledge of this position group, these guys, your guys' D-backs. There weren't many of them that I knew much about.
No, there weren't many that we know much about.
They haven't gave you any reason to know about them, unless you're like die hard on the 247 boards, scraping through any source you could think of. There ain't much to know about them.
Yeah. And if they're in the transfer portal, I usually will know those guys. But a lot of your guys, they were on the roster last year. So you just kind of go under the radar, and that was that. But looking at we talked about the roster. Now, I'm looking at the schedule that you get Tulane again, and then at Illinois will be a tough one. But Bielema's going to have them competitive, I think, all the time.
Yeah.
I always ask, what is what's your ceiling and what's the floor? What do you guys think? Tyler, I'll let you go first on this one.
Oh yeah, Tyler, you go first.
Okay. So I'll probably end up being, I'm normally the more pessimistic one of the group here. The problem with like the way I look at the schedule for Duke this year is it's weird. I see 2 pretty much guaranteed wins and 2 probably guaranteed losses. Like I feel like, we probably should beat William and Mary and Boston College pretty handily. And Illinois and Miami, I'll be floored if we don't lose either of those games by multiple touchdowns. So then you're left with 10 games or 8 games where I really feel like they're all toss-ups. Like I could see Duke winning every one of them left on the schedule. I could see us losing every single one of them. So I float around with, just kind of, with all circumstances considered, I could see a floor of, 3 to 4 wins, and ceiling I'm looking at 8. I'm assuming we fall right into 6-6 this year. Just with the spots we're young, if everything gels right, I think you can get to 8 wins, and you probably drop Clemson, Miami, Illinois. And we've been fortunate. We've beat State, UNC, and Wake 3 years running, or back 2 years running, all 3. I just feel we're due to drop one of those this year.
That luck's got to run out at some point.
It's hard to go 9-0 in rivalry games.
Yeah.
Jake Dickert's a good head coach too. Plus, you got to go there. Yeah.
Oh, we love Jake Dickert. Yeah. He's one of our favorite guys in the league.
Yeah.
Eli,
I'm right around.
What about you guys? Yeah, Eli, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right here. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, just looking at each team. Yeah, kind of what Tyler said. I don't know. There are so many.
Okay.
There are so many uncertains going in because, like, we know there's uncertains with Duke. We know where those question marks are. Every other team in this schedule has their uncertainties as well. It's so hard to say here a month before week 0 and truly say who I think we're going to win and beat it against. To Tyler's point, I think there's 2 guaranteed losses here. Illinois, Miami for sure. We're probably due against NC State, as much as it pains me to say that. We've won 5 of the last 6, and they're bound to get lucky one of these days.
They could be pretty solid this year, too.
They could be, but you know what? Living in the Raleigh area, I've grown up hearing that this is our year for NC State every year. They were supposed to make the playoffs a couple years ago. So I think any NC State fan worth their salt, any ball knower knows to tread lightly with the hype going in about NC State. But yeah, man, I think floor 4-8 and a realistic ceiling where, like, if we finish the season here, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's what I expected. Probably 7-5, honestly. Okay. I think there's the 2 guaranteed wins, maybe 3 if you count Carolina, and I could see us beating. I don't know. It's tough, but yeah, give me floor 4-8, ceiling of 7-5, best case 8-4, best case.
Yeah, I've got perfect season. Everybody meshes together well, and either Walker turns out to be, kind of, gets his turnover issues figured out, stays healthy, and leads us to a successful season, or Dan turns out to be a great quarterback for us. Duke could go 9-3, lose to Clemson, lose to Illinois, and lose to Miami. I don't see us winning those 3 games. There's also a world where I see none of that going to plan, and Walker turning out to just kind of be a turnover prone Chase Bryce, Gunnar Holmberg kind of guy for Duke, and they don't give Dan the shot, or Dan gets in there and kind of like Daniel Jones 2016 takes his lumps all year, and it's a learning experience, but you only win 4 games. There's a world where Duke only beats William and Mary, Boston College, and UNC, or they could go 9-3. I kind of expect it to fall somewhere in the middle, but that's kind of where I've got them laying at right now.
Okay. So the consensus is there's a large bandwidth of outcomes.
Yeah, no, there's not enough to know about the team.
No,
I think if you
yeah.
came back to us after Tulane, or maybe even at halftime, we would all have the answer for you.
Yeah.
Once we just got to see something,
Well, and the thing is, like Eli said, you can't look at our schedule because Tulane, they lost everything. Like, you have no idea.
Stuff.
Georgia Tech lost King.
Virginia, you don't know how they're going to look with Bo Pribula this year. That's
Stanford. I don't think looks good, but they can't be as bad as they were
Stanford. Yeah. They
So
rattled
it's
off
really
a big
interesting.
win. Stanford's one of those teams that can rattle off a big win against anybody any week, and that's Duke's seeing them week 4 where, if all goes to plan, Duke's probably 2-1 right there. William and Mary, Tulane, and Illinois. You don't want to be a letdown spot. The difference between going 3-1 into the rest of the season and being 500 going into kind of the gauntlet is it determines if you're playing in a bowl game or not. And I think we've all kind of said it, but if Duke makes a bowl this year, considering everything they went through in the offseason, winning year for us as fans, nothing to complain about. Happy to go to some 6-6 or 7-5 bowl and hang out with the boys in Annapolis for a few days. That's
back
fine,
to Birmingham.
Yeah, we'll go back to Beham, go down to the Gasparilla, wherever,
Myrtle, go to Myrtle.
I would
Comes to Myrtle.
Gosh, we yearn for Myrtle Beach.
Yeah. Independence, go to Memphis. We'll say that.
There you go.
That'd be cool.
So I always try to look at one conference related chart with my guests. The one we're going to do today is QBs of the ACC. So, and you guys will be happy to know this. When I was on, I forget if it was NC State or Cal, but I said, I think Walker Eget should be, this is before I scheduled you guys, before I'd even reached out. I thought Walker Eget should be higher on the list. So,
he's 10 spots too low. I'm half kidding.
Yeah. But looking at this list,
I would flip the top 4, and that would be my 1 through 4. CJ Bailey, Kevin Jennings, JKS, and then Mensa. And that's not hating on Mensa. That's strictly like what they're going to give their team. I think those guys ought to be flipped right there. Bailey, and like I'm no State fan by any means, but he's the truth. And I think he's got way more game.
And that is related to one of the topics I talked about with the NC State guy, Kenton. Those top 4 guys, we'd probably all concede they are the top 4, but there are scenarios where any of them end up being the best QB in the conference this year.
Yeah,
it could happen for all of them.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm a big JKS guy. Like, I think they got something really special at Cal.
Yeah, and Kevin Jennings is a guy. He's played at a pretty consistently high level his entire time as a starter there.
He leads.
He hasn't really dropped up too much. I think Rhett Lashley's a very good QB coach. Is helping him a lot. But
Jennings is like a slightly better CJ Bailey. Like, starting several years now, there's that consistency veteran factor. But yeah, I think Kevin Jennings is. I think he's definitely 100% one of the top 4 QBs in the conference.
If Jennings ever doesn't turn the ball over, he's number 1.
Yeah, that's
his thing. Point.
And he won't do it for certain games. It's just he'll have one game where, like he did against Duke in 2024, he gave it up 6 times, So, but like going towards that bottom of that list, like I think Alberto Mendoza's too high. I do not think he's going to be.
He's on the last name scholarship.
100%, but I think it's bad. Like, I think Georgia Tech has kind of roped themselves into thinking that's going to be something that it's not.
I think Christopher Vizina's too high. I have not been impressed with him.
Yeah. And I don't. Poor old Gio Lopez, God bless him, but I mean, it's time to hang it up. Enterprise is calling.
I'm going to push back on that one. He was pretty good at South Alabama, and now he's back with Izell, who was his old coordinator at South Alabama. I could see. I'm not saying he's lighting the world on fire. I could see him being a top 9 QB in the conference, though.
I can see that.
And I think the circus that was UNC last year really didn't
100%
didn't do him any favors whatsoever.
No. And he was a terrible fit for that offense too.
Yeah. Last year,
is
UNC was grabbing whatever they could and just trying to throw it into something.
They were the shiny toy team last year. It's these guys look. It's UNC was last year what Colorado had been 2 years before that.
Yeah.
We're just grabbing guys out of the portal that look good, and we're going to see what we can do with them.
Yeah, Pribula and Keenholz and Angeli and Heinschel, I think that's the right grouping. I think it's honestly just like 1 through 4. You could probably put them in any direction.
Agreed.
But, Pribula, maybe you're kind of having to base it a little more on like what you're hoping he'll do compared to how Missouri was. But, I think those guys each have pretty good ceilings as well. And Angeli, before he got hurt, was balling.
Yeah, Angeli was lighting it up. I'm curious.
That's a great point, because I've talked to a few people and they're like, they're super low on Syracuse and Fran Brown, and I'm like, hold on. His first 16 games there, they were really good.
Yeah, a year ago we had him like winning the conference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, until Angel, which, don't get me wrong, in this day and age of the portal, the roster management I do put at the feet of the head coach, not having a serviceable backup was on Fran Brown.
Yeah,
even
that was a really bad spot.
It was bad.
Yes,
it's great for us.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but they were pretty good before Angeli got hurt. And if we see a healthy Angeli, he could be 5, he could be 9, like you said. But he's top half anyway. I'll give him that.
100%.
I'm curious how FSU and Ashton Daniels is gonna.
Yeah.
I can't believe Norvell's even back, and that's just a whole. It feels like he's just
the buyout number might have been.
Yeah, probably because they just can't pay him.
Yeah.
So, Mike, let me ask you. You mentioned you thought you might have said it. Apologize if I forgot. You said you feel like Walker Eget's too low. Where would you have him? You said 4 spots higher. Would you switch him without?
I would have him 10 or 11. I would have him 10 or 11. Yeah. I would have him ahead of Daniels, Mendoza, Grunkmeyer, and Vizina. I would also have Lopez probably. It would be him and Lopez would be in that 9-10 spots.
I could see that. That's actually very fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lopez 9, Eget 10.
I think so. Yeah.
This is the first time in a while, at least. The ACC was the conference of quarterbacks for a while there, and this is the first time it feels like that. We're getting back to being the conference of quarterbacks. Like that was the running theme with the ACC was conference quarterbacks, and they kept touting that out. It took a real hit for a few years, but it feels like that they're kind of getting back to that higher end level overall of quarterback play.
It was on Drake May's
show. It's odd to say that too. That the one guy who has succeeded with NFL QBs is dead last on this list.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
Boston College is the weirdest team. Like, they go to a bowl game in Bill O'Brien's first year, and then last year they're just garbage. Like, what went wrong there? Yeah.
That's the weird thing about college football these days. It's so year to year, it's so different. It's just one-offs. You never know.
Yeah.
The best thing Boston College could do is just hope the Big East wants to play football again one day.
Come on home.
They'd fit right in with the MAC now with UMass.
Yeah, bring the band back.
Because
probably get South Florida out of the American. Yeah.
That'll be a fun discussion in about 3 years when the ACC implodes.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see what happens there. But I always, in my final segment now, we've added a third question, but I always ask 2 questions, and we're adding a third now. The first one in this conference, I think, is going to be an obvious one, but I want to ask each of you, which coach in the ACC is on the hottest seat?
It's got to be Norvell, right? Norvell, Dabo.
I think it has to be Norvell.
I think they want to get rid of Belichick right now, but they can't because of the buyout. But Dabo and Norvell,
I think Norvell's 1A, and then probably a decent gap before you get to Dabo. And if Dave went 5-7 this year, I think State might pull trigger. But knowing Dave, he won't. He'll go 7-5 at worst.
Yeah,
Dave will go. Yeah, Dave will beat Carolina in the bowl game, and we're ready to get her.
Yeah, they'll beat Carolina. They'll beat the piss out of them that last week of the season. And everybody bring him back.
Is O'Brien on that list after a 2-10 season last year?
Boston College has to find more money.
I was going to say, outside of the obvious, like, Norvell, obviously people are going to say Belichick. I don't think the ACC has a big hot seat. Like, I don't think, mainly because a lot of the guys that are here now, they're all fairly new. Stanford, Cal, they brought in new guys. Dickert's been here 1 year.
Yeah.
And the other guys like Brom, he's not going anywhere. Rhett Lashley's going to be at SMU as long as he wants to be.
Brent Key will die at Tech.
If Narduzzi leaves Pitt, I don't know that no one wants to hire him. Just with how he conducts himself.
For me, that seems like a retirement job for him. Like age-wise, you feel like he's going to go until he retires, and then they'll do one of those, like he'll be special assistant to the athletic director doing something random like that.
And funnily enough, with O'Brien, I don't think he would get fired from Boston College, but I could see him pulling a Jeff Hafley and wanting to get out to get back to a coordinator job in the NFL.
Like Chip Kelly did.
That.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
either that.
I can see that happening more than he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, or they don't fire him, but they move him to like a chief football operations guy because Boston College would like to keep him around, but they need somebody that's in his 30s or 40s to resurrect what they need.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Now the next question I always ask is a little bit more of a thinker and conceptual. Which coach in the conference with a really good season or two could vault himself to a blue blood or a really good job?
Ooh.
I'd love to go Rhett Lashley, I think.
Okay.
And
I think so.
I go Rhett over guys like Jeff and Brent, and I'm not saying Rhett's not loyal to SMU. He goes to bat for SMU like nobody else. He would go to war for them.
Yeah, my thought was if Rhett would have wanted to do that, he would have taken the Arkansas job this year. But
see, I think Rhett knows there's a bigger job than Arkansas out there for him. I think that if something bigger in the SEC were to open, like a Tennessee or something like that, if the Heupel thing doesn't work out in another 2 years or so, or South Carolina and Beamer ball flails out. As long as SMU's got a lot.
As a South Carolina alumni, I would take Lashley in a second.
Oh, absolutely. But I think those are things Lashley would go to, as opposed to like an Arkansas or an Ole Miss or a Mississippi State, might take one of those style jobs. Brom and Key, I just don't ever see leaving, and no other coach outside of, maybe a guy like Manny, if he had 2 more really good years at Duke. I think Rhett's the first guy that comes to mind, though.
He was the other guy. He wasn't the guy that I picked, but I'm curious to see what you guys, the other.
I'll let you go first, Eli.
I've got 2. I think the biggest one is James Franklin. I think James Franklin he's shown that he can win games at a big school. I think that if he pieces it together and kicks ass with Virginia Tech for 2, maybe even 3 years, he might be fielding calls from a bigger, go back up to one of the larger power conferences.
That's fair. Yeah.
What do you guys think about Jake Dickert? I mean, he seems kind of to be on the up.
Dickert is mine, especially being a Wisconsin guy. I think if he's decent at Wake Forest and Fickle gets fired, Dickert is the next Wisconsin guy.
Right.
And also, being a Minnesota native, if PJ would take a different job, Dickert could be a Minnesota option too.
I was going to ask what you guys think about Mario Cristobal. I know he's
a lifer, really, I think.
NFL if he leaves, I think.
Yeah, I think the only ask I would have there would be, as being a former Saban assistant, would he consider Alabama if DeBoer wasn't there? Because you got to figure, in terms of other blue blood jobs, he was at one at Oregon and chose to go back home to Miami. So I think it'd be tough. Yeah.
I'm going a little bit off the wall here, but if you remember when this guy got hired, he was raved about, and I think last year did him a lot of negative publicity. But I think if Fran puts together two really good years at Syracuse, I mean, people were all over him when he got the Q's job right away.
Last summer, when I was having this conversation, Fran was my guest. And it's funny you mentioned you were talking about the Carolina stuff with Beamer. It was being a former Georgia guy.
Yeah.
If Beamer would have got let go and Brown would have been on a heater, I would have taken Brown in a second in South Carolina.
I think
Yeah,
like
that ACC experience.
One like dark horse for like a blue blood, but go to ACC Pacific Coast. If Lincoln Riley gets canned at USC in 2 years or so, and Lupoy has balled out at Cal, which he more than likely is,
yeah,
I see a world where like USC is like, we can't let Oregon get this guy if Lanning ever leaves. Let's go ahead and lock him down now and run with it.
Tosh is another one though. He's at his alma. He's a Cal guy though. He's at his alma mater.
But you have to think if he were to leave, USC or Oregon would probably be the only two schools he'd ever entertain. And he's a good coach.
I wonder if, considering Tosh's background, I wonder, like you said with Mario, could Tosh be an NFL guy? Because he spent a good chunk of his career coaching D-line in the NFL.
And he appears to kind of be one of those guys that could lead an NFL group.
Yes, 100%. That's a very good point. Yeah.
Was blown away by him at media days. Got to speak to him for just about 10 seconds. All I told him, I was like, dude, you got me ready to run through a wall. And he's like, that's awesome, man. He gave me a fist bump, just kept on going. But just his speeches, how he went about things, the questions he was asked, the things he did to retain those players on Cal's roster, flying to Hawaii at 2 a.m. in the morning, laying on a bench until JKS got back to him, just out in the nature, just laying there waiting on a quarterback. And it just seems like movie type stuff. And I'm all for that. And he seems like he's going to do real well out there building off what they've kind of been going for.
Good. And the question I've only gotten asked this the last couple episodes, but in the Duke ecosphere, if say we get off of this call and Manny Diaz has taken another job or is no longer the head coach, who do you want Duke to hire tomorrow to be his replacement?
Jimbo
The first
Fisher.
question I will throw out about that is Jonathan Brewer in the mix? Is he a candidate?
No.
Okay.
Not yet. He'd have to really change some things like strategy wise. But mine would be Jimbo Fisher.
Okay. That's a decent one. Yeah.
We've jokingly said that the last few years. We're like, if Manny, we think that Manny may, when Norvell eventually gets let go, because Manny has ties down there. I could see them pushing for that. I don't know if Diaz would want that with where he's at. He's said before that he doesn't want another big job, but it's coach speak. You take it with a grain of salt.
The other job I've thrown him out potentially, where he was D coordinator before, Mississippi State, if Levy fails, would he want to go to the SEC? It's one of those you don't know until you know. Like it's until it comes up. But it's a place he has a tie that maybe there'll be an opening in a year or two.
But I could see, and you've mentioned ties to the Midwest. I think Duke would be in a spot where Dickert might leave Wake to take a Duke job. But that becomes the thing with Duke. Do you want a guy who who's probably, if he comes to Duke, he's gone in 3 years?
Yeah.
Like he's not going to come to Duke and give you 10 years, barring, something wild. I don't think.
I think get the impression. I'm saying I get the impression you guys would not want a first-time head coach. Is that accurate?
Not a coordinator, unless he was a head coach and got fired like Manny did. That's a different stitch. But
like you wouldn't want to you wouldn't want to give the chance to like a Tyler Santucci type guy.
Depends. I mean, I felt like if anything, like Georgia's defensive coordinator, who Carolina, if they hired the right guy, would have hired him. Something like that of that magnitude, I could get behind. But if it's just another run-of-the-mill P4 guy running coordinator, probably not. We've all talked about Jason Candle before, looking at like G6 teams and things like that. Just coaches in that style. Bring Pete Lambeau back home to Alamance, but things along those lines. A lot of options there.
Eli, I'll let you go because then I have an interesting on-staff one that I'm gonna float around after you give yours.
Yeah, guy, he's a guy named Mike Elko. I think would be a great fit here at Duke. No, I don't know. I mean, it's gonna sound kind of preposterous. I'm not as educated on anybody outside the ACC. I kind of only strictly keep up with the ACC super close. Like I'm aware of conferences outside the ACC, but as far as like head coaches, the only ones I can really truly
Yeah.
speak on are ACC head coaches. And yeah, I mean, we kind of touched on it. Like, I would like a Jake Dicker, but he'd be gone in 2 years. If he's jumping from Wake to Duke, he would definitely make the jump somewhere else.
Duke to Wisconsin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, so it's
Big gap.
The other one I thought of, former Notre Dame assistant, but Jared Parker has done a good job at Troy as head coach.
Mm-hmm.
He could be a guy. Yeah,
could be.
There's an interesting on staff. If Duke hired off the current staff, the only name that I could think making sense would be a special teams coordinator, Gabe Infante.
I agree.
Just because if you look at his track record, he's a master recruiter. Like he's Duke's top guy with recruiting, but his only other coaching experience has ever been as a high school head coach. So
that's head coaching experience.
Like he's got the experience. Like he does all the heavy recruiting for Duke as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And really, when you get to a Power 4 head coach, you're not making big on the field decisions 90% of the time. Like I feel like he would be a good. Mike Elko did it perfectly when he summed it up at Duke. He's like, I'm a CEO more than anything, and I feel like having Infante on staff, he could fill into that CEO head coach role very easily.
I like that one. Yeah, that's he's. I'll be honest, he's a guy that was not even on my radar. Nobody, he's not someone I had thought about at all. So it's a good one.
After Duke's special teams performance the last year and a half, it's understandable.
Yeah, and that's fair. No, but no, it's always it's a interesting thought, experiment. Which coaches could get a blue blood job, and who would you want your next head coach to be? So, yeah. But we've reached our conclusion, guys. I want to say I had a great time. It was awesome having you guys on here.
Yeah, it was cool. Thanks for having
me.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glad viewers out there, as usual, tag their accounts where you can follow them all at. But Scumbags, thank you for being here. Episode 52 was awesome. And go Blue Devils.
Yeah, go Blue Devils.
Go Duke.